Save this happy ending. We can say, can't go on pretending. 'Cause when you with me, baby, don't you see I'm shining? 'Cause when you with me, baby, don't you see I'm shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see I'm shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see I'm shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see I'm shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see I'm shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see I'm shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see I'm shining?
But that's alright.
Oh my god!
Yo guys, what is up? Moxsy from a Borderlands 3 video, and today we're updating Ricochet, which now, as you guys saw from the intro, the recursion and the Ricochet mechanic in this game was substantially nerfed, and updating this build was definitely a challenge. Tried so many different weapons, so many different skill tree and gear combos, and I'm really happy with the result. If you guys enjoy the build, be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoy all the effort that goes into this. And with that, let's get right into the video. So, showing on screen right now is the updated skill tree for Ricochet, which now you will notice a ginormous difference. It is a completely different skill tree setup, and I will explain my reasoning for that, as well as the weapons that we are using. Now, a lot of weapons work really, really well on this build. One of the main weapons, and a kind of our pseudo replacement for the recursion, is going to be the reflux. The reflux absolutely stomps with this build, and has the same kind of area of effect mobbing capabilities that the recursion has. It always has been good, but with the recursion gone, the reflex is now super, super awesome in its spot. The rest of the weapons that we're using, I've been really enjoying splash weapons. Now, splash weapons with high fire rate and more than one projectile count are going to be super, super strong on this build. Weapons such as the gargoyle, ×3 gargoyle, the beacon, and the flipper are all awesome additions to this build. Now, I'll explain the whole like ricochet thing in a second, because these weapons aren't known for ricocheting. So we'll get to that in a second, but these weapons are all very, very strong and very capable on this build. Now, for the skill tree, we are going all the way down to blue tree. Before, we hardly touched blue tree. Now we're going all the way down to blue tree to avatar. We're only getting 1 into sustainment. We're not getting forceful expression, and we're making it as far down and putting as many points as we can to mindfulness. We could only get 1 point, but with our class mod, we're gonna have 4 out of 3 into mindfulness. So the decision behind doing this is without the recursion. As you guys know, this was a build that you basically didn't need to phase grasp. All you needed to do was fake grasp and run around. And when you fake grasp and run around, your recursion would clear out entire rooms for you without needing ties that bind. However, with that gone, we do need to use ties that bind now. And the big downfall of the driver is it doesn't have that crazy cooldown that a Phaserker provides that allows you to spam ties that bind. So in order to make up for that, we are now going to avatar, which is going to allow us to fake grasp, proc all of our ASCs, grasp an enemy, and then fake grasp again. So we're never really having any downtime on the dot that is on ourself that's going to keep us moving, and there's no downtime on actually having our action skill up, which is a very, very strong combo, because we're constantly going to be dotted, we're constantly going to be moving at full speed with mindfulness, and that is going to fuel our damage. Now, for artifacts, one of the big things that you could take advantage of using a driver class mod over a over a Phaserker is you can use an elemental projector. Now, the driver does more gun damage than the Phaserker. The elemental projector does more damage than the Pearl. And so these two together is an extremely strong combo. You're going to be self-dotting and gaining a ton of damage boost, as well as the utility that we can get from an elemental projector. We can get Victory Rush for more damage and movement speed, which movement speed is more damage. We can get things like, this is a god roll, but action skill cooldown rate, magazine size, and area of effect damage. If you didn't notice, we were focusing on splash damage, and I'll explain that once again in a second. But a big focus now, instead of on the ASC Ricochet mechanic, because that no longer exists, is having uptime 100% pretty much on Indiscriminate. Now, Amara's bullets that damage enemies have a chance to Ricochet deal decreased damage to nearby enemies. Ricochet chance of damage are increased if the target is currently affected by Phase Grass or Stillness of Mind. The reason that having Avatar is so nice and being able to have Ties That Bind always active is because we can constantly have Indiscriminate at a super high 60% chance, and we're using weapons that spew out bullets and multiples of them to get as many Indiscriminate procs as we can. Now, Indiscriminate scales with action skill damage, and because Indiscriminate scales with action skill damage, we are getting more damage from our Ricochet bullets than we are from our actual bullets that are coming out of our gun. So that is why Indiscriminate is still so strong, and why I kept the name Ricochet Witch. Now, we're using 1 point to do harm here, because while Ties That Bind is strong and Ties That Bind is going to melt everything, the more bullets that we can land while an enemy is grasped, the more they're going to ricochet. So, like, I don't know if this makes sense, but if you're insta-killing everything with Ties That Bind on your first shot and you're speccing a ton of Ties That Bind do harm damage, you're not going to be able to get as many procs of Indiscriminate, which are going to be doing even crazier damage. So we're going small points into do harm, but we're still getting points there, so that our Indiscriminate is going to be up and active more often. Now, the rest of the tree, we need max cooldown. Cooldown on all of your gear is going to be really, really awesome, so that you can get like the shortest cooldown possible. On, for example, like Phase Cast right now, we don't have the greatest cooldown, and you can't work with the topped off thing, but it is solid. We're getting cooldown there, we're getting cooldown on class 1, cooldown on our artifact, and it is going to allow us to spam out Ties That Bind as much as possible. Now, the reason we're so heavily invested into the green tree is because when I tried going double blue tree, or blue tree, red tree capstone, we lost a decent amount of survivability, and it honestly felt worse to play. I tried speccing all the way down to red tree and going guardian angel with like no points into blue tree. I tried speccing no green tree except for personal space and double capstone for blue and red, and I found that going into green tree, getting this splash damage and splash damage reduction, which we're kind of favoring this splash damage and splash damage reduction over forceful expression, and being able to get that little point into mindfulness for that increased damage and increased movement speed was super, super strong. Now, how you're playing this build and how you're running around with it is kind of like how you would play Chaos Queen. We're basically a speedier version of Chaos Queen in that you're going to be spamming ties, but the weapon's slightly different. I found the Gargoyle to be the absolute star on this. The Gargoyle absolutely like vomits out damage. It's kind of crazy. It melts all of the takedown enemies in both takedowns, all of the takedown bosses. It doesn't have a lot of ammo, so this is my like go-to like takedown, like Wotan Melter, Valkyrie Melter, Scourge Melter. It's really, really awesome. Now, for mobbing, I generally use the Reflux. For other things, like the Beacon is strong and the Flipper are really strong. They put out high fire rate and a lot of pellets for as many indiscriminate procs as you can, giving you really, really great mobbing. Now, for bossing with this build, because this build is really good at bossing. If you are looking for an Amara build for bossing, this is super, super strong and stronger than the Phase Zerker build for bossing, and that is because of the driver's movement speed damage that it's going to provide with Elemental Projector. That on top of what I've so far found the best bossing weapons for this build, which are Sandhawks. You basically are going to double cast whatever you're using. So like this is a, these are Phase Slam ones. So 2 procs of Phase Slam. That's going to give us double stacks of Transcend. Double stacks of Transcend are going to give us 54% critical hit damage on top of proccing Lid Bearer enemies, giving us all of our damage buffs. And then we can run at full speed or try to get full movement speed, because the faster you're moving, the more damage you're going to get. And then because the Sandhawk has such fire rate and it does splash damage, it benefits from all of the things that we're going to be using and can just lay out a crazy amount of damage. So for bossing, Sandhawks are really good. Backburners are really good. The Root is really good. All of these weapons are very strong. Lastly, for our shield and grenade, we're going to be using Hunter Seekers and the Old God. I don't throw grenades on Amara. I really don't. I haven't thrown a grenade on this build since Nam. You don't need one. If you were going to use one, the best thing probably being It's Piss, but it's kind of just there to be a nice thing. But the best option would be an It's Piss, and then Old Gods for all of that bonus elemental damage. They're just so strong. Definitely, if you get a good Old God, you're going to be sitting very, very pretty. The modifiers that I've been running on this, I've been running Speed Demon, Healy Avenger, Laser Fair, and Roguelite. You don't need... Speed Demon's really great because the faster that we're moving, we're going to get more damage, and that translates really, really well with the driver. The medium hard modifiers are fine. Roguelite works just fine on this. You're not really going to go down. You're getting some nice tankiness in the green tree, and you're going to get a lot of lifesteal. So Roguelite is fine. However, running things like minus 75% crit is honestly pretty a good choice as well. Or the Drone Ranger. The reason I say that minus 75% crit is fine is because a lot of our damage is going to be coming through Ties That Bind and Indiscriminate, and Ties That Bind will never ever crit. So because of that, you're not actually going to be losing any damage through Ties That Bind. Guys, that is it for the build. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. I hope you're happy with the update. I worked really hard on this. Basically, the thing that we're going to be using is splash damage weapons that do a lot of damage, but also you're able to reach max movement speed on. That is something that's really, really helpful, is things like the Gargoyle have these delayed explosions, and you can fire them off and get to full movement speed, and that's super helpful. The Reflux, the chains you can run around at full movement speed. All of these weapon choices are really awesome for keeping up your movement speed and your damage, and this build just plows through everything. I will catch y'all in the next one. Take care. Peace.